It's time for the 32081 Scoreboard Show. Let's recap the latest weekly scores and highlights from around the county.
And welcome to another edition of the 32081 Scoreboard Show. It's the playoffs, and as always, as I introduce him, the man, the myth, the legend, the hardest working sports reporter in Northeast Florida, and especially the 32081, Mr. Anthony Richards. How are you today, Anthony?
I'm doing great, Todd. Ready for another playoff edition.
Me too. And I know we're a little bit later on dropping this podcast, but because it was for a good reason, though, because you were tied up with a really cool event yesterday. So that's why we're recording this today on Wednesday and dropping later tonight. But you want to talk about that? Because it was pretty cool. It's out at Winn-Dixie, right?
Yeah, it was Neptune Beach off of Penman Road, the Winn-Dixie there. And they were giving away part of their foundation. I guess they were giving away 500 plus military families were giving away turkeys, but also like potatoes and just kind of all the fixings. So basically pretty much a whole Thanksgiving meal. And it was just, the line was out, out into the street, and they were giving away there in the parking lot. And it was just really neat, get you in the holiday spirit type of event.
That's awesome. That's awesome, especially with Mayport being out there and everything else. So rightfully so everyone knows that's why we're a little bit later on this show. But anyways, we are back, and boy, do we have a show, Anthony. We have a special guest now joining us. He is from Flagler Broadcasting, part of the Rich and Mike show. We actually started communicating back and forth on Twitter. Mike Lischio. Mike, how you doing? Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, I appreciate you inviting me on the show. Glad to be here.
I kind of feel bad because I listened to your show. I love it. The one Saturday was just phenomenal. But I feel bad because I feel like your blood pressure might have come down, and now I'm having you on the show, and now it might go back up. So I kind of feel a little guilty here.
Well, I keep telling myself 24-hour rule, and it keeps coming back because for my morning sports report this morning, I had to go back and edit clips from the game and got myself all riled up again. So one more time is not going to hurt.
All right. So listen, just to paint everyone a picture, and Mike, I think it's safe to say, let everyone know here that sports reporters, we talk to each other. We cover each other because obviously we can't all be at the same time. And that's how you and I started following each other on Twitter. And we started going back and forth this weekend because Flagler Palm Coast playing great football, and they lose to Spruce Creek 36-35. And when I initially look at that score, I'm like, wow, that was a really good game, which it was, nothing to be taken away from the game. But there was so much more to that. And I listened to your podcast, and then, you sent me some videos and we were talking back and forth. But can you walk through the audience? Because I know we're going to kind of tease your show here because I got to tell you, it's golden. People need to go out and listen to it. And I'll put a link to this. But can you walk us through the series, like with about 30 seconds left, and basically the Bulldogs get just ruled out of a down. They lost a down. They went from I want to say second to fourth, if I remember correctly.
That is correct. So FPC jumped out to a 28-6 lead at halftime. Spruce Creek fought all the way back, got it to 28-28 going into the fourth quarter. And then FPC scored to make it 35-28 with 90 seconds left. Spruce Creek scores. And instead of going for the tie, great call by their head coach, Andy Price, and Coach Minkler, their offensive coordinator, they go for a two-point conversion. They get the two-point conversion. They take a 36-35 lead. Well, 90 seconds for FPC is an eternity. They've been averaging over 45 points a game this season. In the last three games coming into Friday, they have been averaging over 60 points a game. So no worries there. FPC gets first and 10 with about 35 seconds left at the 30-yard line, the plus 30-yard line. They're in their own territory. They're getting into field goal range. First down, they complete a 9-yard pass, and it's now 2nd and 1. Here is where the issues begin. On 2nd and 1, Hayden Hayes, their quarterback, drops back to pass. He tries to escape. He's in the grasp. He goes to throw the ball away. The official says he's down before this ball is released. So FPC calls their last timeout with 19 seconds left. So it's going to be 3rd and 8 at the 28-yard line. Well, here's where the problem happens. So the line judge on the other side, who was very busy that night, he has the line crew check off the down. So they changed it to 3rd down, but he thought it was an incomplete pass. So it's 3rd, and he has it spotted at the 21-yard line and 3rd down before the timeout. The officials huddle up for the timeout. They come out after the timeout, and they go over and respot the marker. No problem. The marker should have been moved back for the sack. The problem is they then checked it to 4th down. So it was 2nd and 1. They got a sack, and now it's 4th and 8.
And meanwhile, the Bulldogs have a 3rd down play, right? I mean, they're thinking it's 3rd down.
Right. They're thinking third down play, let's get a few yards, let's get in the field goal range, kick the ball, and win this game. So Coach Daniel Fish, FPC's coach, tells the official it's third down, at which point the official tells him to shut up and go back to the sideline. Everybody in the building knows it's fourth down except for you. Except that it turns out that out of the 3,000 people there was only 7 people who actually thought it was fourth down. And FPC did not convert. And I'm not saying they win the game, but
they have the opportunity.
They got denied the chance.
They would have had the
right.
opportunity.
I've reached out to the FHSAA director of officials for a statement, and they have not responded, much to my unsurprise. But
yeah, I don't think you're going to get one.
FPC lost the game, and no, I don't think I am either. So that is what happened, and it's heartbreaking for these kids who I've been calling FPC football for 15 years now, and we've had teams make the playoffs, we've had teams that have gone undefeated in the regular season. This team was the best team that they've ever had, especially offensively. They had Marcus Mitchell, who ran for 1,800 yards this year. Hayden Hayes, their quarterback, threw for 34 touchdowns and 3,000 yards this year. And they had 2 receivers who came close to 1,000 yards. Mikhail Isaac had 15 touchdown receptions this year. So it was a special year, and to have it end that way, it just makes you sick.
You know, and what I don't understand, and you talk about it in your podcast, but you talk about that there's 7 individuals. So to take it one step further, there's actually 9, because you've actually got the scoreboard operator and you got the clock operator. So you got an additional 2 people on the crew that's sitting up in the press box that probably should have seen this also. But what I don't understand about this whole thing, Mike, with them losing track of the down is this. The officials wear down indicators on their wrist, except for the umpire wears 2 because he has to keep track of where the ball is spotted on the field. What I don't understand is how they couldn't come together and simply look at their hands and say, wait a minute, I've got third down, you've got third down. Why are we moving to fourth down? It just seems like it was a debacle for FPC.
Well, the line judge was calling the shots the entire night. There was a time he was on the far sideline, and there was a couple times where he moved the spot on the near sideline after it had been spotted, moved the spot back, which, being 50 yards away, I don't know how he did that. FPC had a touchdown called back because of an illegal forward pass. And if you go look at the video, there's about half a dozen players between the official who threw the flag and the player who threw the ball. And the player who threw the ball was 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage and 3 yards from an official on the near side who did not call the flag. So it was just that kind of night. And you can live with mistakes, but losing track of a down, 19 seconds left in a 1-point game with a team just about in field goal range.
It's unreal.
It's unforgivable almost.
That just does not need to happen, period. But listen, Mike, I really appreciate you coming on and talking about this. I know you're from the area and obviously covering FPC, and you guys do a great job. And I highly recommend people go out and listen to the Rich and Mike show. And I really appreciate you coming on and talking to Anthony and I about this event. And it's sad to see, but also congratulations to the Bulldogs. It really stunk that it ended like this for them, but congratulations on a great season. And, I wish it could have turned out differently, and hopefully you'll get that answer from Fasha, but I don't think you will.
I don't either, but I really appreciate you guys having me on. Thanks a lot.
So I guess, Anthony, the thing that we should be happy about is we're not Bulldogs. I can't believe that happened. I cannot believe that happened to them. It was unreal.
It would be heartbreaking no matter when it happens. But if it happened during the regular season, at least you'd be like, okay, well, we got next week. We can just kind of, wipe it off. Let's just continue on to the next game, play the next game. But for it to happen in the playoffs is just even more heartbreaking because there is no next week. So
yeah. And if you want to follow Mike, you can follow him on Twitter at Football County 1. That's at Football County 1 on X and Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And I'll also leave a link to their show because he talks a lot about that show. That was just like one of the things. And he kind of mentioned the forward pass. That wasn't a forward pass. So I'll leave a link to their show. Go and listen to him. And special thanks for him joining us. That was great. Well, not great. I'm glad he joined us, but it was not great for Flagler. But hey, you know what? Man, geez, I just can't get over that still. But so let's move on to some positive news. Let's start with the Sharks and Barracudas. Now, if you remember, Anthony, when we had Brian Case and Drew Price on the show, they didn't seem so happy about their previous win over the Barracudas. Because even I think it was Drew that said, we didn't play our best football. They played a lot better football this time around. The first one they won 17-14. This one they won 45-21. I know you went out there and watched some of that game. What did you see when you were out there? Because by the score and by some of the stats that we'll go over in a second, it looks like they pretty much dominated the game.
Yeah, and you could definitely tell. I mean, they did what they wanted to do. They played better, but I would argue it's probably the best the offense has looked all year long, and they looked pretty good in a lot of games this year. Scoring a bunch of points, but they scored 42, and Drew Price threw for 5 touchdowns. Brian Case ran for 193. It just had everything going, passing, rushing, everything was working against Beachside that night. And I mean, I would definitely argue the Sharks played their best offensive game of the year, and it couldn't come at a better time in the first round of the playoffs. So they definitely played better and stepped it up multiple times.
So let's stay with that real quick with the offense. I don't want to talk about the defense, but on the offensive side, when you look at the stats, like you said, I mean, Drew just had a great night, 70% completion rate. He had 5 touchdowns. But then you also look at where those touchdowns came from. Babin had a touchdown. That was pretty cool in the stats.
Yeah.
David Doherty came in. He was 3 for 44 with 2. Cam Teets came in 6 for 93 yards and a touchdown. And Jack Burquest 5 for 94 with a touchdown. We keep saying it. It's like a broken record that this team keeps getting better and better every week. And I think it's safe to say, well, you know what? I was going to say it's safe to say they're playing their best football, but no, you know what? They played their best football last week, and they very well could be even playing better football this week when they travel to Niceville.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're obviously Niceville's highly ranked team, top team in their region, so they're going to need it. But definitely they're playing it every week. It seems like they're stepping up their game, and it's almost like how do you get better from where they're at? But they're going to definitely try, and if anything, if they can do what they did against Beachside, then Niceville's going to have a battle in their hands.
Now we talk about the defense, that front four and the linebackers, how well they played at Ponte Vedra. And I got to say this, I looked at the stats, and here's what's crazy. So you look at the passing yardage for Beachside, 328 yards with 2 touchdowns. But here's the stat that just kind of jumped out of the paper at me. -3 yards rushing. -3. They stopped them. They completely stopped them. So, how do you win? I don't think you can win a game like that. I mean, we've seen, we say that we've seen some teams, Nease, they've had to go to the pass, to the run, to the pass, and now they bounce. But when you go up against a team and you're Beachside and you're playing Ponte Vedra, I just don't see you being able to win with -3 rushing yards and putting all that pressure on Eddie Jordan.
No, I mean, Eddie's a great quarterback, and there's one thing to be a pass-heavy offense, but there's times during the game where they completely abandon the run, and it doesn't seem like a good recipe, especially against Ponte Vedra, where their defensive front, their front seven, getting after the quarterback is what they do. That's the strength of their defense. So it doesn't. I know you want to try to challenge the secondary, but it just doesn't seem like a game plan. I mean, Beachside's been going with it all year, and it's gotten them to the playoffs. So you can't really argue with that. But I wish for their sake, I would have seen a little bit more run and at least try to establish it a little bit, just to help Eddie out back there, because it really, when you're that one-dimensional, it's hard. It's very hard.
Well, and that's the other thing too. Eddie brings, that dual threat, because he is a very good runner. And we talked about the fact that, Nease was able to stop them in their game. And now you look at Ponte Vedra, and if you're able to take his legs out and only rely on his arm, and it looks like that's what Steve Price and the rest of the coaching staff was looking at here, you have a recipe for success. And that's exactly what they did, 45-21.
Yeah, and Riker Kemp had 5 sacks on the night.
That dude's in the back. I text him back. I'm like, man, that's a good thing that you have a different color jersey, because people think you're on the offense. You're back there so much. I mean, 5 sacks. I mean, Riker just totally killed him.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and everyone was getting back there, but he obviously stood out with 5, and it actually, he was able to break the record. Now he holds the Ponte Vedra record for the most career sacks. So congrats to him, and that's a huge accomplishment. He's been getting in the backfield all year, but he definitely did against Beachside, and he's looking to do it again against Niceville.
Is that one thing that you think that this defense has going for him? Because as much as we've talked about them, do you think the offensive line, they have to account for everybody? So if they're going to double team one of them, let's say they're double teaming Riker, they might open up Robbie Greco. If they double team Robbie Greco, then they might open up Babin. I mean, it just seems like it's very hard for an offensive line to get their blocking scheme down, to protect their quarterback. And I really saw this start at IMG. I mean, it was happening before then, obviously, too. But IMG, we saw them get in the backfield a lot. And now, JP Dolan's been getting in there as well. I mean, is this just a problem for offensive lines, and especially like Niceville, when we talk about them later, that they have to account for so many of these good, fast defensive linemen as well as linebackers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is. I mean, you have to have all 5 O-linemen, working together and handling their assignments every single play, every drive, because if you don't, then all of a sudden you get sacked, and now you're facing a 3rd and 15, and now it just snowballs from there, because it just ruins your drive. And so you almost have to be perfect on every single play, which is hard for anybody, much less an entire unit to do, because they don't just get pushed off the edges, with speed rushes and all, but they get good push up in the middle, so they can provide. So if you step up in the pocket, well, then you're getting pressure up the middle, because those guys can rush the passer just as good. They're not just run stuffers. And then if, maybe you're stymieing the defensive line, well, now you just start blitzing linebackers. And then if you block them, then the defensive line has room to work. And if not, then the linebackers come free and your quarterback's getting hit anyway. So it's really mind-boggling, I'm sure, for a lot of defensive coordinators, offensive coordinators. And it's just hard to handle. I'm glad I'm not coaching against them, because where do you start? You think you start with Riker, but that's not always the key to success. Yeah,
because you never know. JP might be there, Robbie might be there. You just don't know. There's so many of them to account for.
Pick a number that night,
Yeah, exactly. So maybe they got one of those bingo machines on the side, right? Just spin it, they pick a number. We're going to block this one. Okay, so let's go down the street. Let's go to Nease and Tate. I know you started out here. You're probably glad you did, because you saw a lot in the first half. Because the big news here was there was a running clock in the fourth quarter, so it went by very fast. Nease won 42-14. Some of the numbers to talk about here. Nate Harry just had a great night. He was 15 of 17, 237 yards, 3 touchdowns, 88% completion rate, and his passer rating was a 158.3. He had a phenomenal night there. KJ was rushing. He got 2 touchdowns for 81 yards. Maddox Spencer back up on the stat board. He's up there again. We never stop talking about him, right? Get this, a perfect 8 of 8 for 171 and 3 touchdowns. The Nease defense was also on fire again. Noah and Joe, they came up with 9 tackles each, and Noah had a big sack, and then Jacob Curry came in with 6 tackles. The big news for me, though, also here is we continue to watch the kicking at both Ponte Vedra and Nease, but Tyler Gazenfari, 6 of 6 on the extra points. That's you got to love that, because that helps you get to the running clock. So in watching this, I don't think Tate was expecting. They came out first, scored early. Everyone's thinking, okay, that's fine. Nease came roaring back here on this thing. Nease right now is just playing with a level of confidence and fun, and we'll hear from Joe Miracle in just a little bit here, but they're just having fun right now. Aren't they, Anthony? They just look loose. They're just out there having a great time.
Oh, yeah, and they've looked that way for a while, too. So it's not just, the playoffs brought it out of them. We've been talking about that all year. They've been kind of had this swagger and this just fun vibe about them. And it just maybe injuries happen, the backup guys come in, and that vibe is still there. Everyone's just having fun, whether you're on the sideline supporting the guys in the field, or if you're on the field flying around making the plays. It's just a whole team chemistry right now, and a whole culture of fun, but also focused. Like 2 Fs, and they're locked in for sure. And the game pretty much played out as expected. And what you kind of expect from a 1-8 matchup, especially when you're facing the top team in the class, as Nease and Tate were, and. So, yeah, just kind of Tate got up early, but had a little bit of glimmer of hope. But then Nease kind of just, once they got the ball, they took over and controlled the game from there.
And on that note, let's hear from Joe Miracle. And also I caught up with drafts after the game. But before we get to those interviews, first I was able to speak to Maddox Spencer and his father, Jimmy, about the difference between this year's team and when Maddox was a freshman and Nease made the run deep into the playoffs. Hey, first of all, congratulations on your touchdown catches. Quick question for you. You were on this team as a freshman when you guys had that deep run in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. What's it like now for you in your senior year, having almost the same expectations, but with this team?
Freshman year, I didn't really know much. I was on freshman team the whole year. I got pulled up for playoffs, and then I was just kind of standing there just to kind of witness it, and I didn't really get to do much, but it was still fun. And then now this year, being able to be like one of the key players and knowing we have a chance every game we've got, it feels great.
So I was talking to Maddox after the game about the comparison between him playing his freshman year when they went deep in the playoffs and this year. From a parent's perspective, what's the biggest thing you noticed in the difference between those two teams?
Well, I wasn't familiar that much with the freshman team. We got to watch them play, but I didn't know them. But what I will say that's special about this team is something you don't see in team sports very often, and when you find it, it's special. It's when everybody plays, nobody cares, nobody is concerned about who the star is each night. They all play to win. When you have that as a team, when a team has that chemistry, it's special, and you see that in these kids, and you see it in this team now, and that's why they're going places.
Real quick, all I got a very, very serious question for you, Joe. How much fun are you having right now?
Oh, it's the most fun in the world. I couldn't ask for better teammates. I couldn't ask for a better team. It's the most fun I've ever had in my life, and all glory to God.
You know you're playing Oakleaf next week. You're going to enjoy this win, get back. Is there anything that you're looking forward to next week against Oakleaf? And again, how much fun are you going to have?
Hey, LTAU. That's LTAU. You put the words together. You know what that means. We're not scared of nobody. We ready. We played them in the Kickoff Classic. We can beat them again. Trust me.
I just talked to Joe Miracle and I asked him, I said, how much fun are you having?
Right.
My question for you is, watching this team this year compared to last year in the first round,
Right.
It seems like they're having a really fun time and they're playing loose. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, that's kind of been our MO and the blueprint and the makeup of our team, just having fun, man. You know, and they've really bought into that, and I think that we do that, you know, week in and week out. We're loose. We come out on the field on Friday nights just relaxed, ready to play really good football, and that's been great for us so far this year.
The other thing, too, is it seems like also as the season's gone on, especially tonight, we talk about you were either run or pass, you know, whatever they gave you.
Right.
But tonight it seemed like it was run, pass, the defense pick six, and good special
Right.
teams. So it seems like it was like just across the board a perfect game.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, it was just, I tell the guys every week, we come in with a game plan based off of how we think that they're going to line up. You look at last week, we ran for 260 yards. I think tonight we had to be, the air attack was brutal tonight, right, in a good way. I mean, Nate Harry was lights out. He might only had one incompletion. Of course, Maddox looked like he was unstoppable out there. So just, you know, excited for the guys clicking, and whatever works, we'll run it, we'll throw it. Who cares, right, as long as we score points.
I think you could hear the happiness in their voice. What do you think about that, Anthony? It's pretty clear there.
Yeah, they have a lot to be happy about. So yeah.
So if we break down and we look forward, let's start with the Ponte Vedra Niceville game. This is at 7:00. Ponte Vedra, the Sharks are going to be on the road. Niceville 10-1. Of course, Niceville was the team that traveled to Nease in the first round last year, knocked them out of the playoffs. Ponte Vedra's got a 9-2 record. This team, again, I think that Ponte Vedra is playing their best football right now. When you look at the points per game, Ponte Vedra has 11.5 to Niceville 7.6. As far as the rushing yards per game, Ponte Vedra is going to have 202, whereas Niceville comes in at 208, so very close there. Mm-hmm. Passing, this is where, looking at last week, it kind of made me raise my eyebrows a little bit. Passing, Ponte Vedra has 167 to Niceville's 113. So when you look at Brian Case's, productivity on the run, and you see these receivers, starting to come together like David Doherty, Jack Burquest, we start looking at that kind of stuff. I in this particular case, and I'm not being a homer here, I really think that this game is going to lean towards Ponte Vedra, because I think they're, like we said every week, they're going to be ready. They take like business usual, but I feel like the combination of the passing game coming along at the right time, it's going to be a lot for Niceville to have to cover.
Yeah, it is a lot. Like we talked about, when you got Drew throwing it around, going for multiple touchdowns, and then Brian just doing his thing. It's difficult, because a lot of times this year, maybe even early in the year, okay, the teams are like, we'll focus on Brian, we'll eliminate him, and force Drew to almost pass and see what the receivers can do. Well, now they've proven, if you force them to pass, that's fine. We'll throw for 5 touchdowns if that's what we have to do to win. So it's really they're kind of a two-headed monster in passing and rushing. So it's kind of like, how do you approach them? They're they've developed over the year to where now they're much more hard to come up with a defensive game plan to defend. So it's going to be interesting to see. There's so many key matchups in this game that I'm interested to see and how they play out.
Yeah, and I think when you talk about the key matchups, the two that I'm looking at right now is I'm looking at Brian Case's numbers, where he's averaging 133 compared to Connor Matthews for Niceville, who's rushing for an average of 107, and then Drew is averaging and passing 156, and Kane is averaging 100. It just looks like the offenses are more prolific now. Again, Niceville is going to be a defense that Ponte Vedra has not seen during the regular season. They always play their teams tough. They do. That's what Niceville does. But I also think that the X factor here is Noah Ash. I look at him and his leg. I think he's going to have some key field goals in this game, because I feel the offense is going to put him in the right position to kick those field goals. And I'm thinking that this game is probably not going to be a blowout like Beachside, but I'm thinking that it could be like a 12, 13-point win for Ponte Vedra.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. The Noah Ash factor, is definitely, something that, it will come into effect at some point this postseason, you figure. And this could be the week where he could decide a game-winning field goal, or just making field goals throughout could be the extra, 3-6 points that they needed at the end of the day. And it's one thing also to look out for is the Sharks they've thrown with a couple wrinkles in lately with Brian Case throwing a touchdown pass and then Talon Babbitt catching a touchdown pass the last couple of weeks. So they've been putting a lot of extra stuff because they've been kind of handling games. They've been able to put a lot of extra stuff on film. So this is stuff that Niceville's seeing, and it's just something that they have to, they have to think about. Now, I mean, you may not even do it, but if you line up in that formation where you can run multiple things off of it, they have to account for that. And they're like, we just saw that on film. And then all of a sudden they've got that in their head, and they're kind of their head's spinning a little bit maybe at times because they think you're coming at them with the trick play, and really you're just running your basic play, and you're just running it right at them, or you're throwing it over their head, So yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, right? You now that you've seen Babin out there, you put him out there to your mind. You get in their brain, they're thinking, okay, this is going to be a trick play, but then you might leave Jack or David or Stanton open. Who knows what's going on? But you're right; they've thrown this in at the right time to where now they're going to have to account for that, and it's going to get in their heads, and it could open up some other stuff. But again, I think this is going to be a good one. I think Noah Ash is going to be put in position to make some key field goals. I do like Ponte Vedra in this game with Niceville. Now, I do think the 7 o'clock game over at the Den is going to be an interesting game. It's definitely not going to be an easy game. And the last time these two teams met was in the preseason classic where Nease came out as a victory, 33-28. However, I know they didn't think they played their best football early. I mean, again, it's a kickoff classic. And, you have a bunch of different players playing. So now they're on one extreme saying, hey, now we're going to prove that win was for real, even if it was in the preseason. But then you got Oakleaf saying, nah, we're going to end this perfect season. And they are a tough force to be reckoned with. And we saw them against Mandarin. There were some questionable calls in that game as well. But what are you looking for to see in this game at Nease this Friday night?
I'm going to like the offensive side of the ball when it comes to Oakleaf and see how they do against Nease's defense, because there's been probably like 6 or 7 games this year they've scored over 30 and most of the time over 40 points, and just kind of their offense has been high flying. I mean, they even lost to Bulls like 57-50, so that's a loss, but they still scored 50 something points. So their offense has a lot of weapons, and they can take advantage of you both rushing and passing. But they've also had some games against teams like Fleming Island, where they've only gotten 17 or 21. They've played Hawthorne. These are teams that you would think are kind of equivalent, or even Nease is better, but it's like the closest to their par. And the offense has struggled for Oakleaf to score, kind of meet their average where they're at. So I'm interested to see if Nease can hold them under their average points. And if they do, then that gives, I think, the edge to the Panthers, because I think the Panthers will be able to score. So
yeah, and I think that's interesting because I was looking also, and it was funny to see. I was kind of surprised at the stats, how Oakleaf actually kind of, in passing and rushing stuff with the yardage that Nease has put up. Is that what I saw in Max Preps is that they actually led in some of those categories against Nease, which was kind of surprising to me. But here's where I think the difference is for this game is going to be. I do like Nease in this game. I think Nease is going to win. I don't think it's going to be a take game. I don't think it's going to be a running clock game in the fourth quarter. I do see them winning probably by 13, maybe 14, but I'm looking at like a 13-point win on this one. I think Oakleaf's going to play them tough. But here's the thing I was looking at last week against Tate was the secondary for Nease. This, and I've told you this before, this was the question mark for me in the past with Cash Caldwell on one side. We've lost Shamar McNair for Nease Panthers, in the secondary. Eli Luckett had a great night. The big step up was when we saw Cash Caldwell with the interception. He also had a great pass defense deep down on the field. It was a great jump up and came down his back. Got his wind knocked out of him for a little bit. And then Joe Miracle with the great, pick six, and he ran it back. So I think with the way the secondary is playing in this particular case, and I think they're going to keep that passing attack a little bit more in touch. And also, I think you're going to see a defensive line and linebackers. You're going to see a lot of stunts from Garth. You're going to see a lot of different looks from him, different blitzes to get in that backfield and keep that quarterback on his heels.
Yeah, Cash has really, come up, come to play lately, and he's really stepped in nicely. I mean, he seems like, he's getting interception almost every week, lately. It seems like, so he's making plays, and that's good because, Nease has a kind of that attacking mentality, and they'll force you into turnovers. And I think that they'll probably, most likely, maybe, Oakleaf will have to deal with that. And if they win the turnover battle, I think that's a big thing in Nease's favor, because either they're scoring off the turnover, right away, like a pick six, or, the Nease offense, that just gives them an extra possession, that you stopped Oakleaf and now you get the ball. And I count on Nease's offense being able to take advantage of that. So if the Panthers win the turnover battle, I think they win the game for sure.
And that's the catch, right? I mean, I sit here and I say, okay, I can see them winning by 13 or 14. But the thing that we've learned from Nease is that I can say that, and then like we see at these games, all of a sudden in the span of 5 minutes, they score 2 or 3 touchdowns. And you're kind of like, where the heck did that just come from? I mean, that's just like what they play. Maddox Spencer all of a sudden gets open for a long one, or Braden Felder makes a great catch that's, 60 yards down the field, or Joe Miracle picks 6 or whatever. They can score quick.
Yeah, they can score quick, and they can go through little spells where you're like, oh, that drive, didn't result in a touchdown. So it kind of seems a little awkward, a little different. Okay, because they score so often. But then they'll come back and they'll score. They'll have like 3 consecutive touchdown drives that took only 3 plays. So, I mean, the ability to score quick is something that Oakleaf, I'm sure, is aware of, but they're going to have to find a way to handle and prevent those big plays, those kind of chunk plays that all of a sudden put you behind, and now you're reeling.
And last but not least, this is one of those games where I've said it since the beginning when they were going to be in the playoffs, that if they got home field, this is the game you want to have at home. I think the stands are going to be packed. I think it's going to be loud. I think it's going to be what Nease, is going to need on the field. I think it's going to be a great atmosphere. And I think it's also one of those things where it's great for Nease, but also with Ponte Vedra going on the road to Niceville, they've proven that they can go on the road to hostile environments. They've proven they can go on the road to like IMG and play their IMG white team and win. I think in both these cases, for both these games, I think both teams have proven that they can win in these environments, and Nease gets a big jolt, huge jolt, in a packed out den.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why you strive so hard for that home field advantage, and the den is a place where you don't want to come in and play, especially during the postseason, because it's always loud. But then it takes a couple of notches up from that because it's playoff football, and this is every snap could you look back and could decide the game. So it's every play is important, and in Ponte Vedra's case, that's why you schedule those trips like IMG, where you simulate a lengthy trip to the Panhandle and 5+ hours. So now this is not something you've seen for the first time in the second round of the playoffs. You've seen it, but not only have you seen it, they won that. So I remember I was talking to Riker Kemp after the game, and he said, we're looking forward to coming back with the win, because obviously the trip's much better if you win. It's a much happier trip, 5 hours back. So
I was texting with Drew and Brian after their IMG. I'm like, I bet it's fun on that bus. So, congratulations on their win. So again, Ponte Vedra is going to be playing at Niceville at 7:00, and then Nease will be hosting Oakleaf at the Den with also a 7:00 kickoff. So, Anthony, any last parting words?
No, I'm just looking forward to getting out to Nease, and obviously we will all be following the Ponte Vedra game ever so closely, to
Very
see how
closely.
that one goes. Yeah,
for sure. All right, everyone. Again, Mike Lischio, thank you for joining us on the call, talking about what happened over at Flagler Palm Coast. Again, check him out at Football County 1. That's at Football County 1 on X. And also be sure to check out Anthony Richards at ANTNY Rich. That's at ANTNY Rich, as well as his great articles over at the PonteVedraRecorder.com. For Anthony Richards, I'm The Todd, and thank you for joining us right here on the 32081 Scoreboard Show.
Thank you for listening to the 32081. We hope you enjoyed today's episode.
I love the show, guys. You're awesome.
Please don't forget to subscribe to the show so you can join us for the next episode.
I never miss an episode. It's the best.
Until next time, take care.